Hi, I'm Cody from Naphammer, and welcome to my channel. Naphammer is going to be my Age of Sigmar narrative channel, where I am going to be posting videos about the narrative aspect of Age of Sigmar. I am excited that you are here. Naphammer got its name from the fact that I'm a new parent. My son is now 5 months old, and I wanted to start filming and start making a channel, but really the only free time that I found that I have was while he was sleeping, and so these are videos that I will be making while he is taking a nap. I was really inspired to start this channel by Doug from 2Plus Tough, no affiliation. In his video, I Am a Wargamer, his response to those questions, for his part on what would you say to encourage new YouTube wargamers was just to get started and to just start filming and to start doing it. And this is my start. This is my introduction. This is me starting up this channel. So I'm excited to see where this adventure goes. I found for myself that the struggle is always how to start something. And the struggle for me is always trying to get started and what's that first thing that you are going to do. I'm a teacher by trade, and whenever I have a new class, the very first thing that I do is introduce myself, introduce who I am, and let my students get to know me. So I figured that this is what I would do for this video. And it's kind of a new person's take on the I Am a Wargamer challenge. So my journey into wargaming actually started off with Legos. And started off when I was in 7th grade. So when I was in 7th grade, I was obsessed with the Lego Star Wars Slave One. It was the Boba Fett ship, and I was saving up all of my money for it because I really, really wanted to buy it. And as you do with kids, we went with my parents down to a Michael's store. And Michael's always has those like hodgepodge toys, so it's a random collection of toys. But I was wandering through there, and I saw a Boba Fett Slave One model, and I really wanted it. I thought it was just going to be a pre-built model, and it was something that I wanted to get because as I was still saving up for that Lego one, it was just a sweet, this is something that I can play with before I get that actual model. So I used my allowance, I bought it, brought it home, opened it up, and lo and behold, it was a build model with sprues and everything. And at first I was disappointed because it's like, oh man, I was really hoping to play with this. But then to my rescue came my father. My father had been building model cars in his youth, and he liked to build model cars, but then when he had kids, when he got married, all that kind of stuff kind of got packed up and stored, and he had moved on to real cars, so he went from building model cars to building real cars. But he still had all of his model stuff. So he set me up with a tester set, the white paintbrushes, white handled paintbrushes, the tester's glue, the tester's paint, so those acrylics that you had to thin in order to clean the brush. And that was my first introduction to model building, was building that Boba Fett Slave One. Fast forward a couple years, fast forward to high school, I think it was sophomore year of high school. I went over to a friend's house, and he played Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I think it was 6th edition at the time, and he had a Wood Elf army. And he was showing me, and we kind of did a test battle, or like a mock battle between the figures that he had, where I used some of his Wood Elves and he used his other ones. And I just fell in love with it. I don't know what it was that drew me. I can't tell you what that spark was that made me just love Warhammer at that moment. But I just loved the models, I loved the gameplay, and then as I read more into it and as I researched more into it, I realized that I really loved the setting and I really loved the story behind everything. And that was my first introduction to Warhammer. Since then, my very first army that I ever collected was Bretonnias, and I love knights and chivalry, and so the Bretonnians were my first army. Second army for Warhammer Fantasy Battles with vampire counts, but I realized that, hey, I didn't like the reliance on magic at the time for the vampire counts. So I sold off that army. And I was thinking about what my next army was, and I was looking at my Bretonnian army. And knowing their background of lore, they're more knights, peasants are more auxiliary that they use for distractions. And my Bretonnia army was a majority of peasant men-at-arms, peasant archers, and like the mandatory Knight of the Realm unit that I needed to have in every army. And I figured, well, if that's how I'm making this composition, I should probably be looking at a different human-centric army. And so that is when I got into the Empire. That has been my love ever since. I made a whole entire 2,500 point Hawkland army in fantasy battles, and that was my army that I truly fell in love with, and that is the human army that I always come back to. In Age of Sigmar now, it is Cities of Sigmar. But then, the end times happened. Fantasy World blew up, and I got super salty about it. The reason for that is when I was building in high school, I didn't have any game stores close to me. I was getting into the game just as all the games workshops in the malls around me were closing down. And so I only ever got the aspect of thinking of how cool this game would be once I actually find someone to play with. So I was kind of salty about it because I felt like I never really got a full experience of it. And I switched over to 40K for a little bit. But with the first General's Handbook, when they actually balanced it, when they put some points into it, and once the lore kind of got a little bit more figured out, then I came back to Age of Sigmar, and I have fallen in love with it. I love the rule set, and I probably won't be going back to 40K anytime soon, in anywhere near the far future. The other thing that was part of my experience of getting into Warhammer is the fact that when I moved to Oregon, which is where I'm currently in now, the store that I went to when it was first opening, I think, is when I found it. But really the only two Warhammer players were myself and the store owner. That store, by the way, is Glimpses of Wonder and Warfare in Sherwood, Oregon. It's a wonderful store. If you ever make it down there, feel free to stop by, stop into the store, but it's a great store. I live an hour and a half away from it now, and it's still I still consider it my local gaming store, and that's where I always go to get all my stuff and to run my events. Because what ended up happening is I really wanted to build a community there, so I started hosting events. I started being the contact point person for tournaments, for escalation leagues, for narrative campaigns, and that was kind of my hobby child, the thing that I took joy in seeing grow. We got from just the two of us to 16 regular players, so I think it's doing pretty well. But I was running, as I said, all the narrative campaigns, all the escalation leagues, and all of majority of the tournaments. And just this last year, with kind of my son being born, going into teaching and all that, I have stepped back from escalation and from tournaments, and I more just run the narrative campaigns. But that's kind of my brief story of how I got into wargaming. So my favorite aspect of the hobby is the narrative and the world building. I really love my narrative campaigns that I run. I really love the stories. I love thinking up narrative stories behind my armies. I like thinking, why are they here? What are they doing? Who's in command? What is that person like? And just building these stories, and I think more importantly, I like being part of the stories that unfold. I think for me that is the aspect of it that I am most in love with, is the fact that as I'm playing, I can see these events unfold. I'm in charge of these events as they're unfolding, and I am living this story out at the same time that my proxy for myself on the table is. But I just like thinking, what backstories do my characters have? Who are their allies that it pains them to fight against? Who do they hate that they relish the opportunity to crush? I also really enjoy those cinematic moments in a battle where everyone just steps back. It's like, oh man, that was awesome. That was awesome. That was cool. That whoa moment. I think that is one of my favorite parts of the game, are just those whoa moments. and having the story behind it rather than just a whoa moment of, oh, that was pretty awesome, and that was just a localized competitive event, but more of that like, oh man, how's that going to impact the story going forward? I know one narrative battle that I ran, I was playing as my Slaves of Darkness, and it was a multi-person battle, so there was like 5 other players, and my Warlord, Cosmos the Never-Chosen, Chaos Lord and Crackerjack, was charged by a Tree Lord Ancient and a Lario. He slew the Tree Lord Ancient and for his combat, and then he survived being attacked by a Tree Lord Ancient, or he survived being attacked by a Lario. He killed the Tree Lord Ancient, and then on my next phase he ended up killing a Lario, and it was just like, oh man, wow, that was exciting. But yeah, that's kind of what I would consider to be my favorite aspects of the hobby. I want to use Naphammer as an opportunity to kind of discuss how to run narrative events, whether it's a narrative event for just you as a single player, or a narrative event for you and like 2 other people, or a narrative event for a store to be running where there's 16 or more people on a consistent basis. I want this channel to be a focus more on the narrative aspect of the game. There's a lot of channels that focus on the competitive. There's a lot of channels that focus on battle reports. But I enjoy the narrative aspect, and I want to share that enjoyment of that part of the game with you and use it as an opportunity to kind of teach you how to run a narrative event. Things that I want to be uploading in the future is I want to showcase that more narrative side. Sorry, looking at my notes. I want to walk through past narrative campaigns that I've run. I want to give tips on how to write a narrative campaign and walk through the ones that I have done with those tips in mind. Also, I would, during that time, explain to you, or hopefully be able to explain to you, like what happened in my experience of running that narrative campaign, and then provide those resources for you to either take the ones that I've already created or have the ability to make your own and feel confident about making your own. Because narrative campaigns are rewarding, they're fun, they're exciting to run. In the future, I do want to do battle reports. Right now I'm in an apartment, so I don't really have space to do a full battle report for Age of Sigmar games, but I'm hoping to be able to film some Warcry ones. I want to use that as kind of my example of how to run a solo campaign and how to make a story for yourself. After that, hopefully, because of when I'm filming these now and I'm starting this channel, we're right in the middle of the pandemic, so I can't really go to the store to play and film there, but eventually my wife and I are saving up for a house, and part of that house is going to be a game room, so hopefully when that gets set up, I could film narrative reports and battle reports that have stories attached to them. Essentially, I just want to have fun with the narrative. I want to have fun with the story, and I hope that I'm able to share that passion for the story off with you, and share that passion for the story in a way that you are able to take that passion and make it your own. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe in order to see future content coming out. I'm hoping to get a video out once every 2 weeks. That is my goal, but again, it depends. Naphammer is entirely based around the napping schedule of my son. Our logo is just a nod. My son's name is Griffin, and since this is Naphammer, I want to be a sleeping griffin. So anytime you see a sleeping griffin, know that that means that I am here to provide you with more content and more information and more narrative running things. But yeah, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you soon. Well, I was trying to clear up memory and I deleted everything. So hopefully that will be our first and only deleting everything in the file. Luckily it was before anything was promised to be put up, and it was for our very first video. So this will be a run through again. Thank you for coming to our cut. I don't like that. Man, I did it all. I did like one take and it was wonderful, and I'm so mad at myself for deleting it. I was trying to delete my other stuff and it said delete scene. I was like, why would I want to delete a scene in a scene? And then it deleted everything. Because I didn't realize it was saying scenes was takes. Anywho, hi, I'm Cody from NatPat. Restart. Oh, I'm so mad that I had one take and that was all deleted because it was really good. I'm glad I still have my notes. I'm glad I know what I'm going to talk about, but still,